Hi, I'm Nate from Recapped Now. Today, I'm going to recap a 2011 thriller mystery movie called The Hidden Face. A woman accidentally becomes trapped in her new home's panic room while trying to spy on her boyfriend. No one is able to hear her from there. What will happen next? Did her boyfriend find her out? Let's see the recap. Adrian, a young talented symphony director, sees a video of his lover Belen informing him that she still loves him but can't continue to be with him. Therefore, she's going. She asks him not to follow her. Adrian is heartbroken by the message. He goes to the bathroom, splashes some water on his face, takes a sip of his drink, and then drives in the rain. He goes to a bar to acquire a few drinks to numb the agony and forget about her darling Belen. A waitress named Fabiana approaches him and asks what he wants to drink. He responds, "I will take the whiskey." The waitress comments to her companion, telling her that she dislikes seeing adult men cry. Her buddy responds that men only cry when they are guilty, but Fabiana counters that this is not always the case. Later, she approaches Adrian and informs him that they are closing up. Adrian is so inebriated that he runs into another person in the parking lot. The two start brawling, but the guy's girlfriend intervenes and drives away. Fabiana walks out of the pub and asks Adrian if he may go home. Adrian takes out his car keys and presents them to Fabiana, asking if they can travel to her home, so she drove him home. They have a nice time in the car while Adrian conducts the music playing on the radio. She takes him to her house and allows him to sleep off his hangover on her couch. Adrian wakes up the next day, unsure of his location. Fabiana inquires as to what happened the night before and why he was so unhappy. But Adrian remains silent. He hastily finishes his coffee and goes without saying goodbye to her. Fabiana continues to watch him from her window as he gets into his car and drives away. Adrian then holds a class, but it ends in the middle of practice because he becomes too distracted with his job. Adrian returns to the same pub next night to apologize to Fabiana for his actions in the morning and asks if she can sit with him. She insists she needs to work, so Adrian extends another offer. He takes her to the theater where he works, and Adrian teaches her about the various instruments. They hit it off immediately. The two are about to kiss when Fabiana interrupts him and inquires whether he is married or has a girlfriend. Adrian responds that he is neither, and the two go over to his house and do adult things. The next morning, Fabiana wakes up early and goes to the bathroom, where she discovers Adrian has 2 brushes. She then brushed her teeth. Soon after, Fabiana begins to hear unusual noises coming from the drain. So she decides to look about Adrian's mansion. She even meets his pet, a German shepherd, before going downstairs and discovering shoe design drawings on a table that plainly belonged to someone else. She pulls one up, but just as she is about to examine it thoroughly, Adrian appears and asks her to eat breakfast, distracting her from the sketches. While they eat breakfast, Fabiana tells him how big his house is and why he doesn't live in the city. He responds that he requires peace in order to pursue his artistic goals. Fabiana asks whether he has to work today, and he says no, and she should stay the night. Fabiana agrees with the proposal. A short later, 2 detectives arrive at the residence and begin questioning Belen about her disappearance. Their names are Francesco and Bernardo. Fabiana is terrified when she sees one of them. It appears that Detective Bernardo and Fabiana know each other. We find that Belen vanished without a trace, and the police are searching for her. They begin searching the residence, as Adrian is the major suspect in Belen's disappearance. They have inquiries regarding Belen. He shows the cops the workstation that she left behind. Adrian becomes furious when the cops begin checking around the garden because he believes they suspect him of murdering her and burying her there. Adrian feels Belen simply fled away with another man to begin a fresh life somewhere else. He also informs Fabiana that he attempted to call Belen's family, but received no response from anyone. The cops were unable to find any evidence of Adrian's involvement. Later that night, Fabiana takes a bath. She hears the sound of the drain again and notices that the water is moving despite her total stillness. She leaps out of the bath and rushes to Adrian. Outside, the lighting flashes and then turns off, which causes Fabiana to scream. Adrian soothes her down and explains that it happens every time there is a storm outdoors. They are going to do adult things when Fabiana notices the dog in the room, staring at the glass of the cupboard. She is uncomfortable and requests that Adrian take the dog outside. The following night, Fabiana speaks with her buddy, Detective Bernardo, about Adrian. Bernardo and Fabiana were once romantically involved. That's why she was scared when she spotted him in Adrian's estate. Bernardo questions whether it was a wise idea to date someone who is a suspect in his girlfriend's disappearance. She informs him that Belen has fled, and Adrian has nothing to do with her disappearance. He bitterly remarks that Fabiana appears to have gotten what she wanted, a wealthy man rather than a low-wage detective. Later, Adrian and Fabiana attend an orchestra conducted by Adrian. Following the performance, Adrian introduces her to his manager, Tito. Tito assures Adrian that they will never forget him. As we learn, Adrian intends to leave his work soon. Fabiana appears to have moved in with Adrian, and she is taking a shower when the water suddenly becomes hot. She turns the dial back, but it gets hot again, burning her shoulder, and she screams. Fabiana approaches the mirror to assess the burn when she hears the commotion again coming from the bathroom sink. She begins to tiptoe out of the restroom, but the door behind her opens, startling her. But it turns out it was only Hans. After her wash, she goes outside to sit and notices that a storm is approaching. Later that night, she is leaping on the bed, having fun, when she notices a key-shaped necklace laying under a grate on the floor. She places it around her neck. Suddenly, the light turns off, and she believes she has heard someone and continues to call out to whomever it is. She picks up a fire poker and screams once more. Hans terrifies her again, and she stumbles and smacks her head against the piano. She faints, but Adrian returns to take care of her. He brings her pain relievers and a glass of water. Fabiana admits that she is uncomfortable being alone in the mansion. Adrian promises her that nothing awful will happen. He thinks it was just bad luck that the lights went out, and Hans scared her. She informs him that there is a ghost in the house. Adrian initially laughs at her, but she is determined and brings him to the toilet, asking him to position his ear next to the sink, where she believes she heard voices. But Adrian simply says that it could be wind in the pipes. He then jokingly threatens the ghost that if it bothers Fabiana, it would have to deal with him. But Fabiana stays inquisitive about what is going on in the house. The next morning, he gets a call from detectives. They uncovered a body that resembled Belen, and he must identify her. Adrian and the investigators visit the morgue to view the body of a young woman. Adrian assures them it is not Belen, despite the pathologist's statement that it is impossible to identify the body because it has been burned completely. Adrian drives home, and, as he enters, hears Fabiana say, "Sorry," to someone above. While in the restroom, he confronts her about this and asks who she is speaking with. Fabiana claims she was simply quoting a book and deflects the subject. He informs Fabiana that Belen is no longer in his life and that she does not need to worry. As they hug, Fabiana glances in the mirror, and it is seen that someone is behind it. That person is Belen. A flashback then begins, showing Adrian and Belen riding bicycles around the city. Adrian is preparing food, and Belen wonders what the occasion is. Adrian informs her that he has landed his dream job, conducting an orchestra. His job in another country requires him to leave in 15 days for nearly a year. This upsets Belen, but Adrian insists that she come up, which Belen refuses because it would mean leaving her life behind. But her love for Adrian wins out, and she agrees to go, as long as he loves her and would not abandon her. Adrian is then shown conducting the orchestra, as Belen looks on. She starts seeking for him after the concert and finds him talking to a violinist named Veronica. It creates suspicions, and she suspects Adrian of having an affair with Veronica. The couple is currently looking for a place to live in their new city. The pair drives to a mansion just outside the city. The residence is owned by a German woman who is returning to Berlin, so she decides to rent out the property on one condition: Hans, her dog, must be looked for. Belen and Adrian soon move in and begin to unpack their belongings. The two are an ideal pair, completely in love with one another. Belen is subsequently shown at a leather factory, looking for a specific type of leather for a shoe she has developed. Belen receives a call from a German woman who appears to want to visit her, so Belen chooses to go see Adrian first. When she enters his office, she notices Adrian and Veronica having a private conversation over whiskey. She becomes upset and exits the office. During their return ride, she asks Adrian whether there is anything going on and if he flirts with all the artists. Adrian reassures her that nothing is amiss, and the two reconcile over the night. The next morning, While Adrian is showering, Belen searches through his phone for texts between the two of them. As Adrian prepares to depart, she asks him again why he and Veronica have been contacting and texting one another. Adrian admits that he had been flirting with Veronica, but nothing else transpired. Adrian ignores his girlfriend's plea and departs for work. On the same day, the German woman visits their home, and Belen tells her all about her issues. Belen is curious about what Adrian would do if she died or went missing, and the German lady claims that her husband was also at work. The lady advises her to execute on this notion to find out if Adrian truly loves her. Then she asks Belen if she can keep a secret or not. Belen agrees she can, and the lady shows her a secret room that they created to hide her husband in case someone came looking for him. The chamber is soundproof and self-contained. There is a one-way see-through glass that allows her to see everything on the other side. There is a speaker in the room, so any talk outside may be heard. She and Belen are the only ones who know about this chamber. The lady leaves the mansion and says she will phone her when she arrives in Berlin. Belen praises her for sharing her secret with her. Belen devises a strategy to retaliate against Adrian for his conduct with Veronica. Belen chooses to film the video and enter the refuge room to find out what Adrian will do if she goes missing. She is packing her belongings to make the story of leaving more plausible. When Adrian gets home unexpectedly, she quickly takes her belongings, but the key slides into the vent unnoticed. She goes inside and locks the door on herself. She notices Adrian's response to the video. She feels thrilled because he appears to be heartbroken. Adrian phones Belen, but her phone cannot be contacted. He leaves a voicemail informing her that he has watched the video, but does not comprehend. Adrian is sad, and he tosses the bouquet he had bought for Belen at the mirror. When she wants to leave the room to reconnect with Adrian, she remembers she did not bring the key with her, so she's imprisoned in the room. She begins banging the glass and yelling for Adrian to save her. Adrian can't hear her cry because the room is entirely soundproof. Her phone receives no signal in the room. In desperation, she even attempts to unlock the door with the other house's keys. She then begins pounding the glass with a chair, but it serves no purpose. She continues to watch Adrian and shouts out for assistance. But Adrian can't see her, and she knows how much pain she's given him. Adrian brings the footage to the police, who ask him whether he suspects anyone. But Adrian claims he doesn't know anyone. He also informs them that the night before, they had a couple's argument. The officer informs him that there are no evidence of murder or kidnapping, and that they will contact the immigration office to determine whether Belen has left the country. Meanwhile, Belen searches every corner of the room until she discovers the late husband's uniform in a closet. She reads a journal and discovers that the lady's husband was an SS officer during World War II. She then finds a can opener and begins cutting a hole in one of the walls. She also finds outdated canned food in one of the drawers. She tries to consume the food, but it's ruined, so she spits it out. She tries to remove the taste with tap water. However, the water is brown due to the aging pipes. Despite this, she has enough to get by for a while. Later, Adrian views the video one last time and wishes her the best. Belen is enraged after hearing this. She assumed that he would have to wait for her for the rest of his life, just like Hachiko. He goes to the restroom. When Belen knocks one of the pipes in anger, she notices that the water in the sink shifts. She begins desperately pounding the pipes to draw Adrian's attention to the water. Adrian does not notice the ripples in the lake, so Belen begins to carve the wall. The dynamo light breaks, forcing her to spend her time in the dark from now on. She hears a disturbance and moves to one of the mirrors, where she sees Adrian bringing Fabiana home for the first time. She utterly collapses as she observes Adrian and Fabiana performing adult things. She continues to plead, "Adrian, please don't do this." Belen is devastated after watching this and begins crying as the speakers continue to relay their groans to her. The next morning, Belen yells at Fabiana, calling her a "Hija de puta!" This was the first time Fabiana heard noises coming from the sewer, and Belen knows that Fabiana could be her only way out. She tries to communicate with her on several occasions, but the first attempt was unsuccessful, so she returns to chisel the wall, only to discover that a thick metal plate is behind the concrete wall. She does all in her power to be recognized. That's why she started fiddling with the water temperature when Fabiana was taking a shower. Belen notices that Fabiana has discovered the lost key to the room, so she begins hammering on the mirrors to catch her attention. Fabiana ignores this again because she can't hear her. We see the incident as Adrian receives a phone call to identify a body. After he goes, Fabiana looks in the mirror and smiles, believing Belen has died. Belen believes that it is too early to rejoice. Fabiana intentionally fills the bathroom sink with water to see if it would move again when she asks questions. She says to start and stop while watching the water move, and she realizes that someone or something is attempting to communicate with her through the water. Fabiana asks a lot of inquiries to figure out who is doing all this stuff. That's when she double-checks that Belen is actually behind the walls. She asks Belen whether she is stuck somewhere, and she quickly discovers that Belen is alive behind the walls. Fabiana discovers the secret entrance. Belen eventually sees the light at the end of the tunnel. Fabiana inserts the key, then stops and hesitates. She pulls out the key without opening the lock. She resolves to lock up Belen so that she can be Adrian's sole woman. We watch the scene again, where Fabiana apologizes to Belen and Adrian inquires about it. Belen tears in misery as she sees Fabiana embrace Adrian. The next day, Detective Bernardo approaches Adrian and informs him that the Belen investigation is now his duty. He then approaches Adrian's automobile and advises him to exercise extreme caution in whatever he does. Adrian is stunned by this. The officer then adds that if he hurts Fabiana, he would kill him. Then Detective Bernardo arrives at the residence and presents Fabiana photos of Adrian having an affair with the musician Veronica. Parallel to this event, Adrian and Veronica break up at work. Fabiana is deeply troubled by recent occurrences. She fills the sink with water again and begins questioning Belen whether she is all right. But she receives no response. She feels terrible for not letting Belen out when she initially had the chance. She suspects Belen has died. As a result, Fabiana makes a major decision. She lets Belen out of the concealed room. The door opens, and Fabiana enters the room to find Belen. Belen is lying unconsciously on the bed. Fabiana attempts to wake her awake by calling her name. Belen suddenly opens her eyes and smashes a bottle against Fabiana's head. She knocks her out and grabs the keys to the room. She hurries out and shuts the door, keeping Fabiana inside. Belen leaves the key on the bed. She also leaves a snapshot of Adrian and herself on the mirror. The girl goes downstairs and activates the answering machine. The note informs her that the German lady died in Berlin, and her family wishes to sell the mansion. This indicates that only Belen and Fabiana are aware of the secret chamber. Belen then exits the residence. Adrian arrives a moment later. He finds the key on the bed and is unsure what it is. A few days later, Belen is sitting on the beach, finally at peace. The camera cuts for one more second to the concealed room, where Fabiana is seen hitting the glass. Hans is currently the only occupant of the mansion. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed the recap. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell for more movie recaps. Stay tuned for our next cinematic adventure, and until then, happy watching.